where did you go? Okay.
Right, I was born in London. My name is Gerry Abrahams and I'm 94 years of age. My father served as a soldier in the First World War. He was wounded and captured. I can remember the build-up to the outbreak of war because we lived in London and we were heavily bombed. And I can remember seeing the aircraft flying over on the Battle of Britain. My father was an air raid warden. I joined up because I was working for Vickers Armstrong in Newbury, and the Luftwaffe came in to bomb the factory because it was an important factory, missed and bombed a school, killed some children, and I volunteered the following day. I chose the RAF aircrew because I was in a reserved occupation in Vickers Armstrong, and it was the only way I could get into the services, but I wanted to anyway. It was my ideal. My training was good. I found I could fly an airplane, and it was very thorough. I can remember...
So where did you train, Gerry?
I trained in Cambridge. I can remember my instructors, and I thought the training was good. I couldn't have asked for it to be better. Was I excited or scared of being sent off to war? More excited than scared. Scared because I really didn't know what was involved. Did I ever worry what might happen to you? Strange enough, no, I didn't. I assumed I'd have a charmed life. What happens when I was posted? I wasn't posted abroad, so it didn't matter. The camaraderie was excellent. I was in a New Zealand squadron, and most of them were New Zealanders, and they were wonderful people. And most of them are dead except one, and I still correspond with him. He lives in New Zealand. I can well remember my first time, excuse me, in action. That was a shock to the system because I hadn't realised what was involved. And when I landed, I said to the instructor that took us, that was awful. He said, no, that was an easy one. My day-to-day living conditions were always difficult. We lived in huts, Nissen huts mainly.
Where was that based?
That was at Meeple in Cambridge, and it was very cold and snowy, and it was very poor. We actually had to steal bedboards to light the fire to keep us warm. What was the food like? Did you ever go hungry? Yes, you did. It's no use saying you didn't. There was never enough food, but we could go out and buy some bread and things like that. Had enough to drink. We had leave, of course, and I went home and spent it with my family. There are no particular funny moments, I think, nor tragic really. The crew all came through, and strangely enough, one didn't bother about other crews very much. It was only one incident. I trained with one chap, and he turned up at the squadron, and he got tuberculosis, and I went to the hospital at Ely to see him, and he was very upset, of course, and I had to tell him his crew didn't come back the night before, and he would have been with them if he hadn't got tuberculosis. The worst thing that happened to you on operations? Well, it's hard to pick one worst thing. There were several bad things, but I wouldn't like to say that was the worst. What did I think of the places you were stationed? Well, after the tour, we went to a peacetime station, and that was very nice. It was very different, but before that it was very hard going. What do you think of your commanders? Well, they were all fine people. How did you cope with fear? That's a hard one to answer because being very young, only 19, you know it's not going to happen to you, it's going to happen to everybody else. But there were moments of fear when we were hit several times. We had a fight with a Focke-Wulf 190, and there was fear, but I think that you do your job automatically and it conquers the fear. Afterwards you may feel a bit frightened, but I hope it doesn't sound boastful, but I can't remember ever being really frightened. How did you cope with the loss of friends and colleagues? We coped because we had to. We made a joke of it, because if we didn't, it would have got to us. So that was the equipment we used. Well, the Lancaster was a wonderful airplane, and everything we had was excellent. Yes, uniforms, just the uniform. What battle engagements can you recall? Well, I was on the famous Dresden Raid, and I remember that very, very clearly because we could see the fires hundreds of miles away. I can remember every operation, actually.
How many operations?
Yeah.
How many were there?
31.
31.
Yeah, and the most frightening one was the last one, because everybody's frightened of the last one. But
did you know it was the last one at the time?
oh yeah, and then when we saw the briefing, we were happy because it was known as gardening, which is dropping mines, and that's an easy job because you go in over the sea and you drop mines. What I had forgotten was that there were flagships, and we were 2 searchlights coned us with flagships, and when I got home I counted 38 holes in the fuselage.
So that was only a thing.
I was never wounded. After that I was posted to Bomber Command Instructor School, and then I was made CO of a signals unit, and then I was seconded to BOAC to get my civil licence.
Oh, yeah.
BOAC was starting up again, and they wanted subcrews to be seconded.
What was that, 50s or 60s?
No, this was 46.
Still 46?
Yeah.
Oh, right, they were right at the end of the war. Oh, right.
Well, it was still in the war, yeah.
Still in the war, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and
I just think of BOAC as being a big 60s sort of...
no, they went on right through the war, yeah. And I eventually went back to the Air Force to be demobbed. I was going back to BIEC, but I didn't like it very much. So I joined another company called Airwork Limited. And
how do you spell that? E-L-L?
AIR Work. AIRWORK.
Airwork.
Limited, yeah. And I flew with them and other civil airlines for 30 odd years after the war.
Oh. So it gave you your career, really?
It did give me my career, yeah. Had I not done that, I intended to stay in the Air Force. It was a toss-up between the Air Force and the Civil Airlines. I haven't got any photographs, no, I don't know why.
Oh.
And
that's a shame.
yeah, I don't know why. I just never had photographs taken. Do you often think about the war? Well, in the normal routine, no, but working here.
Yes, yeah. Yes, of course you would do. Yeah. So you've gone through the sheet. That's brilliant. But can you just go back a little bit and expand? So you didn't actually tell me your date of birth.
23/3/1923.
Oh, 23/3/23. That's a good birthday.
Yeah.
And that whereabouts in London was that?
Hackney.
And you stayed there until the war?
No, where did I join up? I joined up. I must have joined up there. Yeah.
So you were 18 when you joined up.
18.
Yeah. And where did you do your training? Somewhere?
Marshals.
Marshals. Okay. And that was quite straightforward, was that?
Yeah, no problems.
No. So how many hours did you do training before they let you up on your own?
I actually did 8 hours.
Oh, you beat Ron. I think you did 10.
Yeah.
8 hours. It's amazing how quickly they let you
on
your own. So what were you flying then when you were training?
Tiger Moth.
You were the same as Ron, yeah. Tiger Moth. And then what did you go on to after that?
Oxfords.
And that was that still training?
Yeah,
that's still training. And then when did you first fly the Lancaster?
Oh, well, then we did more. Then the Wellington.
Oxfords and Wellington.
Then the Stirling.
I don't need to really write this down because it's all on tape.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was all in the same place, Marshall's?
No,
you moved around.
Oh, you move all over the country, yeah.
So why did Ron and the others go to Canada to train and you didn't?
Well, it's a long story. It was because I started off as a wireless operator and then was retrained.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you an NCO as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you were trained as a wireless operator, and then what made you...
Rebusted, yeah.
Was that your decision to retrain?
Yeah.
You wanted to...
Yeah.
So you retrained, okay. So where were you first flying Lancasters?
We flew them at Meeple.
Was it MEA?
MEPAL, yeah.
MEPAL. I've never heard of that. What's that?
Yeah, Chatteris, around that area. Cambridge.
Okay. Okay. And you had 31 sorties, you say?
Yeah.
And one being the Dresden Raid. Can you elaborate a bit on that one for me?
On what?
The Dresden Raid. Was that do you think that was the biggest operation?
It was actually an easy raid because the time we got there, the defences were finished and we just dropped incendiary bombs on it.
Right. So you were based in Cambridge all the time?
Yeah.
And just flew out on sorties. Well, just flew out. You flew out on sorties from Cambridge and back again.
Yeah.
So you went and did your... Okay.
Yeah.
And over what period was that? So those 31 sorties, how long was that over?
6 months.
Was that over 6 months? Really? It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So which year would that have been?
That would have been 1944.
44. So what did you do after those sorties?
Well, when I finished, I told you I went to Bomber Command Instructor School.
Right, okay.
And then the Signals Unit.
So instructor school, where you were trained to be an instructor, you mean?
No, this was at a place called Finningley. Yeah, but they had several of them.
Right, so what did you do there?
I did very little. The war was almost finished. I played cards mostly.
Oh, really? Okay. And did you have much leave? Did you see your family at this time, or did you have a girlfriend, or were you married during the war?
No, nothing like that.
No. So that was basically your war.
Yeah.
Yeah.